Did you know that I used to live out of the country for 2 years? That's right, just me and my little one. We packed up and left the US and we lived in Mexico. So, if you saw by the title of this video, this is a Q&A. I went on my Instagram and asked you all if you had any questions about living abroad. Some of you already knew that, and some of you come to this channel because you knew that I lived in Mexico and you had some specific questions. So, I'm just here to answer those questions that you all left in the comments and also left on my Instagram. So, if you have more questions, be sure to leave them in the comment box below because I will definitely answer them for you and probably in a separate video. And also, if you don't follow me on Instagram, make sure you do that at Tremise_Nicole so that way you can stay up to date and ask any questions you want for my next Q&A. Hey girl, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Tremise Nicole and I'm your new favorite sister girl. Now, I don't know if this is you or if you wanted to do the same thing. I'm assuming because you are watching this video, you've either thought about it or you're curious and you want to know what I did, how I did, why I did it. As far as living abroad, I have got my cozy blanket and a little wine because it's Friday at the time that I'm filming this. It's Friday night and I just decided to grab some wine and we can just have a little chit chat. As I said, if you're not following me on IG, you are definitely missing out. So make sure you go follow me there and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Subscribe to this YouTube channel. Like, comment, and subscribe. And also hit the notification bell so that way you can know when I upload new videos. Sorry in advance if I'm looking down. I just wrote the questions down on my laptop. I don't have my glasses, but that's neither here nor there because I broke them. Remember that? If you haven't seen my last vlog, you'd know that I broke my glasses. So I got the questions on Super Zoom on my laptop right now. But at any rate, so let's just get into it. I don't even want to continue to ramble. So let's see. Question number 1 is a YouTube question or YouTube lost cause, looks like. I think that's lost cause L3929. I'm so sorry if that is you. I'm so sorry if I messed up your name. Lost Cause asked, can you do a blog on why you moved to Merida, Mexico, and why did you leave? What were the hardest and easiest things about living in Merida? Honestly, guys, I wasn't supposed to. I was supposed to travel around the world because I got the opportunity to work remote. I was supposed to leave my full-time job and work a part-time job and travel the world because my part-time job allows me to travel and it allows me to work remotely wherever, whenever I want to, no restrictions. My full-time job at that time did not, and I was honestly supposed to quit because I am an office manager. However, I couldn't find anyone to replace me, and the doctor was kind enough to allow me to continue working fully remote because I originally was supposed to come down to Georgia initially. Some things transpired and I was just like, you know what? I really just need a break. I need a mental break from everything. And so I was just like, where else can I go? I need to think bigger, think larger. I've always wanted the opportunity. I always said to myself, if I had the opportunity to live abroad and work, that's what I would do. So now I have not one, but 2 remote positions. And I was able to afford me to be able to move pretty much wherever. So initially I had my sights set on Spain and I've done research on Spain, did all of my research, was ready to go, looked at the visa requirements and was ready to start applying. And then all of a sudden I saw this lady on House Hunters International. If you're anything like me, you love House Hunters International. And I saw this young lady and she was a single mom and she had 3 kids. And I thought to myself, if she can move abroad with her 3 kids just by herself, why can't I do it, right? I have 1 child. Why can't I do the same thing? And so I looked into where she was moving to, and on House Hunter, she was moving to Merida, Mexico. And so upon that, I specifically searched for her on YouTube and I saw that she had some YouTube content. And then once I started diving into her YouTube content, I started finding more and more content creators for people who were moving to Mexico. And with Mexico, I'm not sure if you all know this also, as a US citizen, you can move to Mexico, or not move, rather. You can travel and visit Mexico for 6 months with just your passport, no additional visa required. You just get an automatic visa. Now, with the climate these days, I don't know if that's going to be changing. However, that's how it was when I left and how it currently is to my knowledge. So, I did my research on Merida, Mexico. I also looked up Playa del Carmen and Cancun and Tulum. Just to see, I thought initially that I wanted to be right in front of the beach. And then upon research, I realized, no, maybe I don't want to be in a super touristy area or touristy town. So at any rate, so that's kind of why or how I chose Merida. But it's just like once I got there, and I was only going to stay in Merida or Mexico in general, just the whole country in general, for 3 months. But once I made it to Merida, Mexico, and that was my first stop, I immediately fell in love. The community there, the Black community, the Mexican community, it just really felt like home. It just felt like a safe space for me. And it was all about family. And as I think about it, that's probably something that I was just craving. A tight-knit community that was all about helping each other and seeing each other grow. And honestly, it was just a breath of fresh air when I got there. So that's why I chose Merida. Now, why did I leave? As much as I love the community in Merida, Mexico, I don't know the easiest way to say this. It's a very, I don't want to say closed off community. It's very, they're open to outsiders. However, when it comes to dating, it's not very open. It's a more of a family oriented town. So majority of the people there are already families. I'm open to dating any race. I don't discriminate, but the majority of the Mexicans there, if they were into Black women, it almost seemed kind of fetishy, or they were just kind of too scared to talk to you. That could have also been combined with the fact that maybe they didn't know, they assumed that maybe I didn't know Spanish, or they assumed that I only spoke English, and they just never really approached you like that. And then also, not only was the dating scene was just completely trash, honestly, the expats that would come there, or immigrants, I should really call them, but the expats that would come there, they weren't really looking for American women, if that makes sense. The men that would come there, you might as well call them like the passport bros. The passport bros were there, okay? And they weren't looking for nothing American. I hate to say it, but they wasn't checking for the American women. Now, that's the dating scene. So that was for me. Secondly, I already knew this trip or adventure that I went on, I knew it was going to be temporary. It was a temporary adventure for me and Amira, mainly because I knew at some point in time she was going to need to come back to the States so that she can get prepared for college and get her driver's license and just prepare herself for her future. So that's one of the bigger reasons why we came back. She has decided that she wants to fast track her, well, she decided that a long time ago, but she's still on track to fast track her high school education. So fingers crossed, she'll be graduating this year, 2 years early. And then also she's going to be trying to find a job. She's in the process of trying to find a job right now. And then also get her driver's license. So that was another major reason why we needed to come back to the States. Could she have gotten her license in Mexico? Yes. However, it just made more sense as U.S. citizens to come back to the U.S. and get all of that taken care of here in America, where we're citizens. So that's the main reason why we left. Other than that, I really enjoyed my time there. And she also asked, I'm assuming this lost cause is a she, I assume. She also asked, what were the hardest and easiest things about living in Merida? The hardest things, I won't say, honestly, it wasn't that hard. It was really easy. Probably some of the minor inconveniences, like in America, you're definitely spoiled, 1,000%. Everything is convenient. Everything makes sense. I don't know. What was the most hardest thing about living there? Maybe the frequent power outages. If the heat is a problem for you, that could be hard. the dating scene, that was hard or difficult. I wouldn't say hard. I don't think things are hard. It's definitely different, definitely slower paced than what I'm used to, especially coming from the northeast side of America. Definitely slower paced, so that did take some time to get accustomed to. They have this super relaxed, don't worry about it type mindset down there. Oh, we'll get to it. If you needed a plumber to come out to fix your sink, don't count on them coming that day. Don't count on them coming the next day. And if it's a holiday, you could just forget about it for the whole week. You know what I mean? So those kind of things, like the hustle mentality. I don't care if it's 4th of July. I don't care if it's President's Day. You're going to get you a plumber. But no, over there, if it's a holiday, everybody's taking off. Because with their families, which is understandable. It makes sense. Nobody's working on the holidays. Nobody's working on the weekends or Saturday or Sunday. I'll be there during the week, maybe, if I'm not too busy. And they always running late for everything. I mean, I can't judge anybody because honestly, I'd be running late too. But they weren't real late. Real late. It's one thing, you got colored people time, and then there's Mexican people time. I'm just saying, that's 2 different time zones. Question 2. It's just a commonly asked question. I don't think anyone specifically asked this question. And that question was, what was housing like and what was the cost? And was the cost of living cheaper? This was a question I got from multiple people, so I didn't write anyone's name down. Again, the question was, what was housing like and what was the cost? And was the cost of living cheaper? I'm gonna take a sip of wine because Mexico's price ain't America's price. Listen, Mexico is very much you get what you pay for, very much so. However, I hate to say this, if you're an American making a decent wage and you go to Mexico, you're a gentrifier. So sorry. However, my mindset was, I'm not going to Mexico to struggle. So I was willing to pay a little bit more to have a luxurious lifestyle, if that makes sense. My rent in Mexican pesos was 24,000 pesos. I had a 3-bedroom, 2.5-bath apartment in a luxury apartment complex. We had spa, we had sauna, we had luxury pools. It was a beautiful place. Almost everyone who came over there is like, oh my gosh, this looks like a resort. And it did. We had a bar. If you want to see that video where I take you on a tour through my apartment, I'll make sure I'll link that video below in the description box and you can check it out. My place was beautiful and I absolutely loved it. It was 24,000 pesos, which is the equivalent to about $1,200 or $1,200, give or take, with the exchange rate. Sometimes it could be lower than that. Sometimes it could be higher than that. At one point in time, there was a point in time where the US dollar value dropped drastically down to $14 or $15 per peso. So basically, when I first got there, it was $20 to 1 peso, 20 to 1 was the ratio. And then it dropped all the way down to 14 while I was there. So my rent went from $1,100, and it went from $1,100 a month all the way up to about I think the most I've ever paid with the exchange rate was $1,400, $1,400, which is still not bad. Again, I'm getting a luxury apartment with all of the amenities. All my utilities was included except electric. And that was still and I was getting it for less than $2,000. Now where I am now, back in Atlanta, baby, I don't even want to talk about the rent. Just know I'm getting way less. I won't say way because I still live in a very nice apartment. But I'm paying a whole lot more, heck of a whole lot more than what I was in Mexico. So again, in Mexico is very much you get what you pay for. You can pay as little. I know people who pay as little as like $200 to $300 for their rent for a house in Mexico. Now, is it a luxury high-rise apartment? No. They might have a roach or two running around. I ain't had no roaches. But they might have a roach or two running around. You know? They might not have no cabinets. You know? But they got a house. It's a nice house. It's very local. I won't even call it local because local is the luxury apartments and local could be the $200, $300 homes. Some of those $200, $300 homes was actually nice. Especially the further out you went from the city. If it was not in Mérida, in the proper Mérida, if it was in Cancao or Chulú or Las Americas, if it was in those areas, you can get way more bang for your buck, if that makes sense. So if you're looking into Mérida, Mexico, check out some of those areas. But those areas, you need a car to get to. It's not city where I was, because everything where I was very walkable. I was in a fantastic neighborhood. The area I was in was called Monteveo. It was beautiful, very walkable. I had Walmart down the street. I had the grocery stores like Super IKEA and the gyms and stuff down the street. Everything I needed to get to, I could walk to. There was a Home Depot around the corner. There was a mall. There was 2 malls. It was really close by. Bus stations, restaurants, bars. I lived on the perfect area. But again, you pay for that. Then the cost of living. So was the cost of living cheaper in general? For housing, yes. But again, you get what you pay for type of thing. For groceries, that was significantly cheaper as well. I won't say it was like a drastic difference. However, it was cheaper. The fruits and veg tasted better, to be honest. It tasted a lot better than it does here in America. It just seemed like it was fresher, but obviously it's fresher because a lot of America gets their fruit and veg imported from Mexico. So it makes sense that the fruit tastes better because it's coming from Mexico. It's the same. It didn't have to go as far, you know? So it's fresher. Then to go out, like say like nightlife type lifestyle, to go out in America, to go out, especially in the Atlanta area, you're looking to spend at least maybe $100 to $200 to go out. In Mexico, a night out on the town would be about $45. That's a round of shots, couple of mixed drinks. You know, it's no entry. You don't really have to pay to get in. I think it was one club that we paid to get in one time, and I believe it was like $10. If it was $10, maybe $5, because I think it was like 50 pesos, so maybe $5, around about that much, about $5 or so to get in the club. And then, of course, drinks will run you a couple to like $3, $4. And this is for like tequila. This is good, like margaritas and stuff, like $3 or $4. If you want to go out, you can go out every weekend and afford it. You know what I mean? That was beautiful. A restaurant to go out to eat, like say dining out and just to go out on a nice restaurant. We would go to this very beautiful restaurant called San Bravo. And you can go there and it's fine dining, you know, like a very nice restaurant you would have to get dressed up for. And it would be about, if you're yourself, maybe $30, $40 depending on what you're getting. That's including drinks. So maybe $30, $40 for a fine dining experience. I know for my daughter and I, we had a fine dining experience. We had a full 3-course meal. Both of us had our own meals. I, of course, had some drinks, and I spent a little less than $100 or just $100, if that, for both of us together. So, you know, overall, the cost of living is cheaper in Mexico, obviously, if you're coming from the U.S., but if you're coming from another country, like another third world country, or you're just not making enough, it can be comparable. It really does just depend on what your budget is. All right, you guys, moving on to question number 3. This one comes from IG user _DFGJU. I don't know how to say that. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that all together, but I know you. So shout out to _DFGJU, aka Jujubeen. I know you from high school. Hey. And Jujubeen asked, are you learning any new languages, or did you learn any new languages? A few people actually asked me this question. And I wouldn't call it new, but I did learn Spanish. I took Spanish in high school. If you don't know, Amir is half Hispanic, so I did pick up Spanish from her father's side of the family. And so Spanish was not a new language for me necessarily. However, Mexican Spanish, Amir's family is El Salvadorian, and El Salvadorian Spanish and Mexican Spanish is 2 different Spanishes. If you know the Spanish language, you already know. The dialect of Spanish depends on where you're from. So if you're not familiar with the map, no shade, El Salvador is in Central America. And Mexico, of course, is obviously in North America. And they, amongst the Spanish community, they say outside of Mexicans speak a more proper Spanish, if that makes sense. And it's not as broken down as some other countries, like maybe say Dominican Republic or something like that, you know, or Puerto Rico. It's not as washed down, you know, with other dialects or other, you know, languages. But so certain words are just not the same. So did I have to learn? I had to learn how Mexicans speak Spanish. if that makes sense. If you understand Spanish, you know the Spanish language, you know what I'm talking about if you understand Spanish. So that was definitely different. Was it difficult? No. Can you make it in Mexico without knowing Spanish? Yes, because there's quite a bit of people in Mexico who are Mexicans. They actually speak English. So don't go to Mexico thinking don't nobody know what you're saying. So you better watch your mouth when you speak English around them, honey, because they be done shocked you and they know English. And same thing, if you know Spanish, somebody be done shocked you. They might know Spanish. They might look like me, but they know Spanish, honey. But at any rate, yeah. So I think you can make do and learn right on the go. You can learn while you're there for sure. It would be helpful if you learned it before you got there, though, because I say that because a lot of people who don't know the language before they get there get taken advantage of more frequently than if you did know Spanish, if that makes sense. And not because they want to harm you in any kind of way, but because it costs to be naive. That's wherever you go, right? It's always going to cost you something, some kind of money for your lack of knowledge. Your lack of knowledge is going to cost you. So it's just best to just study up, learn something. Don't go there completely blank, if that makes sense, you know. And then learn to speak the language as much as you can while you're there. I mean, it's number one, it's just common courtesy. You're in another country. Learn to speak their language when you're there, you know. Just as you would expect them to learn English when they come to America. They're very patient. Mexicans are very patient with you if you don't know Spanish and they don't know English. You guys will figure it out. They want your business, and so they'll help you. Even if you're not doing any kind of business transactions, if you're just out and about and you're lost and you need directions, they will definitely do their best to help you figure out where you need to go. They're just really just kind people in that way. Okay, I kind of went off on a tangent there about the learning new languages thing, but anyway, so did I have to learn new languages? Yes and no. Do you need to learn any new language? Yes. Yes, but it's not required. Okay? Okay. Thanks for the question. All right, let's get back into it. Question number 4 comes from username Love Gold and Glam. Okay? Hi, Love Gold and Glam. Let's see. I think this came from IG actually. So yes, what type of job do you have to be able to do it and navigating language barriers? So I kind of already spoke about the navigating language barriers in the last question. So obviously you would need a remote job. I personally work, I'm a dental office manager, so I have some acquired skills. Now that's kind of unorthodox. It's not a lot of remote dental office managers. That's not really a position. That's a position that I kind of created on my own, if that makes sense. So with that being said, think about the skills that you have and that you possess already, and think about what you can do to be able to take that and be able to work remote. Would I recommend you going to another country and working off of their wages? A country like Mexico? No, I would not, because their wages are much, much lower. Perhaps if you can get a work visa to go to a country, say like anywhere in Europe, like London, where the cost of living would be maybe comparable, or you can make a decent wage or a livable wage. Absolutely. I would definitely recommend that, you can look for work abroad programs. You definitely can do that. I know like Uber has some, not programs, but like some jobs where you can work. Like they have jobs where they'll pay for you or sponsor you, I should say. They'll sponsor you to work in another country. I know Uber is one of those companies. Companies like Zip, believe it or not. There's some other companies that I've seen. Think about your international type companies, right? Again, any remote position or job that you can do, maybe some virtual assistant type positions, anything in the IT department. Tons of people living in Mexico right now who work in IT. I would say non-government jobs most likely will allow you to work abroad. If they're 100% remote, you definitely will have to ask that employer or create your own business and Again, you can actually start your own business by virtually assistant. If you know how to check emails, if you're good with scheduling and handling correspondence, there's a ton of positions. You can go on like Fiverr and market yourself or whatever. So, it really does depend on your skill set. I would definitely say working from home and working remote is two totally different things. Working from home just means that you get to work in your house, but most likely you would have to stay in the U.S. or work within a specific state. Even some companies even narrow it down to a specific state they're only hiring. For example, I know U-Haul, they have a position that was called Moonlighters for their customer service positions. Most of them are able to work from home. However, you do have to work from a specific state, and they will only hire within that specific state, if that makes sense. So make sure that you are working remotely or finding remote positions versus finding work from home positions. And now we've come to our final question. Question number 5 comes from my childhood bestie, the epitome of jazz. Hey, Jasmine. And Karenina Lashes, my Mexican lash tag, my favorite Mexican lash tag. I love you so much and I miss you so much. My lashes have not been the same without you. Although, shameless plug, Karenina, I love you, girl, because you trained my daughter very well. Amira has gotten her, she's become tech, and she has been keeping her mother right, honey. My lashes have been superb, okay? She's making sure I can keep up with the trend, because, girl, getting your lashes done here in America, that is not a cheap service. But, I made sure I knew how to do something before she left Mexico. Okay, anyway, so Jasmine and Karenina wants to know, where am I living now? And as you know, or may or may not know, I don't know if you saw my last video, my luxury apartment video, check it out. Link down below in the description box. I am now living in beautiful Atlanta. I have lived in Georgia before. I lived in South Georgia before when Amira was about 5, so maybe about 10 years ago almost. She might have been 5 or 6, something like that, so maybe about 9 or 10 years ago. And I've always said, when I left, I said, I'll be back because I loved Georgia that much, honestly. And I've always wanted to come back to Georgia. I left my driver's license as Georgia, even when I moved back to Maryland. That's how I knew I was supposed to come back here. Georgia has definitely been a place that has always felt like home outside of Maryland. And it's just one of those places where just always called me. I just felt like I was supposed to be here. This is where I'm supposed to be, at least in this moment. So, coming back to Georgia and Atlanta, I really love it out here. Hopefully, I am able to grow to new heights out here. I hope that I am able to find love out here. I hope that I'm able to curate the life that I've always wanted for myself here in Atlanta. So yeah, that's where I am now. And I have high hopes. I'm not saying that I'll never leave the country again. Never said that. However, Atlanta is where I'll be for the foreseeable future. For right now. For sure. We'll see. This is where Amira will finish up her schooling. So she'll get her license. Possibly go to college. And this is where we're going to start our life over at. So, with that being said, that's all of the questions that I received so far. Again, if you have any more questions or want to know anything else about my experience living abroad, or you have questions that need to be answered as far as what you need to do for you to be able to live abroad, let me know in the comments below. Or you can go to my community post. I created a community post for you all to be able to ask me questions about living abroad. Just go to my community page on YouTube and ask me what you want. And I'll make sure I make another video for you all. Other than that, thank you all for watching. I'll see you next time. Ceiling fan blowing cold breeze on your body. I can't tell you really what it is, but you got it. Makeup in the morning, you got dresses in your closet, but you grab them tight, you in love with being modest. You a move body giving interviews. I'm just saying I'm amused, but you ain't even flexing. And you cool.